What is a product that, if people found out how it was made, they'd stop buying it? Certain signed artwork. Used to work at an art printing company that we did signature editions of certain pieces. Guess who did the signing? Me and some coworkers. We were all design and art majors, so they just had us learn all the artists' signatures. We even had machines that could mimic the signatures too. I wish I had a picture of the devices, they were pretty cool. It was in the fine print that we were doing it and was approved by the artists, but I guarantee most people would never buy the prints if they knew the signatures were forged. So always read the fine print when buying items, especially special editions of stuff. Fresh juices are not so fresh apparently. A friend whose family owns mango orchard told me these companies buy the leftover stock that doesn't sell directly and leave the rest to strong artificial flavoring for uniform taste. Fresh squeezed is marketing. You can deliver orange juice year round in 3 ways. 1. Buy fresh oranges and squeeze them yourself. 2. Squeeze the oranges. Remove most of the water and freeze the concentrate. This is sold as frozen concentrate. 3. Squeeze the oranges. Then separate all the components of the juice mechanically and chemically. Store the various components in huge tanks, sometimes for years. Then mix it with flavors and preservatives. Bottle it and sell it before it separates again. This is sold as fresh squeezed because it's never been frozen. Unless you physically see method 1. Method 2 is far fresher. In high school, the girls in my class were horrified to find out what their Uggs were made of. They had no idea. Oh god, I knew this girl who was like, oh no, you don't kill the sheep to make Uggs. And I was like, no, you are thinking of wool, this is literally sheepskin, you have to kill it. This reminds me of a documentary series my dad once watched. Garlic. The garlic industry is a hell of a lot darker than most people would think. I don't remember everything, but apparently a lot of Chinese companies that sell to restaurants overseas use prison labor. These inmates have to peel the garlic completely by hand. No tools whatsoever. There were a few inmates missing fingernails. If I recall correctly, one man said that he had a friend who had to resort to using his teeth because he didn't have any nails left. They work unimaginably grueling shifts in which they have to meet a quota for the day or face consequences. They get paid very little, if anything at all. They all seemed so miserable. The series is titled Rotten. You can find it on Netflix. After I found out the story behind the palm plantations for production of palm oil, I made it my personal mission to completely throw it out of my life. And that tea is in almost everything you eat, and in so many cosmetic products, and in shampoo, and in cleaning detergent. One really wonders why the F they put that in there to begin with. I want to say sneakers by brands like Nike, who exploit, underpay and abuse their workers. But sadly most people already know how they are made and still buy them. Nike are the poster child for unethical fashion companies. But they are only a fraction of the story. The real issue is that if you choose a different brand over Nike, there's a good chance that they're just as bad or even worse. Just in the category of sports shoes, Brooks, Columbia, Spalding, Skechers, and Under Armour are all often ranked far worse than Nike. It's not a matter of avoiding the bad brands. We are at the point where we need to actively look for the good ones. Not really a product, but if people knew how much, and often people cut corners in construction, I think housing prices would go way down. I don't think I was ever on a job where a problem came up and people were like, okay, let's start over and do this right. Or, especially in bigger construction companies, how much time the employees waste to run the clock. Edit. Guys, trust me when I say I have put my sweat and blood into the industry. My hands are calloused. I'm still working class, and it wasn't my intention to call out people that do this stuff as lazy or whatever else. Most people doing these jobs are extremely underpaid. And on top of being underpaid, they're putting their bodies and health on the line every single day. I almost lost a finger. Twice. I've almost had a whole granite slab fall on me for $11/HR. I probably would died. And many more situations I won't get into. Don't take it out on the workers. Just try your best to work with a smaller company that isn't working 50 jobs at once and has a supervisor/owner around to watch what's going on. I've worked in 2 different meat departments in 2 separate grocery stores. The meat in the case that has had work done, marinated or like put into kebabs, are usually the old meat we didn't sell that is about to go bad. That marinade is hiding how Thai the meat looks. Anyone who enjoys sausage and respects the law should never find out how either are made. Apostrophe. Coffee and cockroaches are linked in several ways. For those who don't know, this happens with coffee because the large piles of coffee beans get infested with cockroaches and, according to Emlyn, it is impossible to remove them completely, so they are simply ground up with the coffee beans. Apostrophe. Fast fashion. Even a conservative estimate puts that industry as the 5th biggest polluter globally. Just stop it. Fashion is honestly one of the worst industries out there, up there with electronics and industrial farming. But unlike those other 2, we don't really need it at the scale it's at right now. Pollution is just the tip of the iceberg, the part we can see and are personally impacted by. What we don't see is the child labor used to make it, subtly injected unhealthy body standards and the advertising, the animal abuse for fur when synthetic fur is no different and actually cheaper, and just how much the consumer is influenced to overconsume. I mean, who in their right mind would really give a ref about the difference between fall fashion and winter fashion if the advertising didn't tell us we needed to buy it to make people like us? I really don't think there is one. If it's because the ingredients or preparation are disgusting, I think most people are perfectly happy to keep eating/using it because the finished product is fine. If it's a moral reason, I just don't think most people would care enough to stop using or eating whatever the product is. We've known for years that Air Jordans are being made with child labor in sweet shops, and sales haven't dipped one bit due to that. And I don't say this as a cynic. I think we should work to improve conditions for all humanity, but the proportion of consumers who would be bothered enough to stop buying a thing is vanishingly small. I'd imagine if people walked through the sweatshops that produce most of their clothing, they would consider spending a bit more for products made in a more humane way. One of the reasons I think buying ethically made clothing is difficult is the large price difference, at least with the clothes I've seen. Also, many of the shops I've seen with strong ethical values tend to be online, and there are some clothing items that are difficult to buy without trying them on. I want to do better, but the industry doesn't make it easy. RVs. They aren't insulated fully. Nothing is sealed correctly. All the electronics that are fancy and new are outdated and inefficient. The manufacturers use the cheapest materials possible and all RVs are built in 8 hours. A vacation home on wheels in 8 hours? Those that live in travel trailers are well aware. Not exactly a product, but certain legal services. A lot of times lawyers are just filling in blanks from a template when drafting documents, and many problems can be resolved with a 2-minute online search if you know where to look. If the public had the knowledge of and access to the resources available to lawyers, there's an awful lot people could figure out for themselves. Of course, that's not to say it's a good idea to DIY a legal matter if you don't know exactly what you're doing. Just that the prices people pay for certain legal services aren't commensurate with the amount of time and effort they actually take the lawyer to complete. Edit. I'm a lawyer myself, and I'll echo others' comments by saying that you can seriously screw yourself or your loved ones over by doing even something as simple as a will incorrectly. In matters above a certain level of complexity, it would be insane to even consider representing yourself. The point still remains that my clients might think twice about how much they paid me if they watched me draft their deed in 6 minutes while listening to a Let's Play in one earbud and browsing Reddit in another tab. Everybody knows how horrible clothing sweet shops are, and the vast majority of people still buy the clothes. Everybody knows how horrible animals are treated on farms, and the vast majority of people still buy meat. Everybody knows that golden gems are mined by child laborers, and the vast majority of people still buy jewelry. Everybody knows that computers and phones are manufactured by abused workers in China, and the vast majority of people still buy them. There are very few people who are going to give up their lifestyles for something that unimportant to them. Literally everything from McDonald's. I work there, believe me. My parents decided to build a house in another state. The builder did not know I lived in the neighborhood. The builder took this nice piece of land and spread about 2 feet of broken concrete over where the front yard and house would be. Not knowing much about construction practices, I took a picture and showed it to a construction engineer friend. He said that was messed up and there was no reason for that. Hired a local third-party engineer to visit the building site, and he said the builder was destroying the land. Parents had a lawyer send a letter to the builder. Builder's lawyer wrote back, denied any wrongdoing. Parents threatened to sue. Builder offered to refund deposit. Rather than waste time/money on a lawsuit, parents took back deposit and walked away. Wasted money on architect fees. Builder completed house. The finished house was raised 3 feet above of where the natural ground was. Whoever bought that house either didn't know or care that 6 inches below was tons of broken concrete debris. F that guy and every builder like him. As others have said, I unfortunately think it takes more than just the knowledge to make people change long-standing habits. But here are some things people don't usually like to think about. 1. Cows need to get pregnant before they'll produce milk. And milk production only lasts about 10 months after that in dairy cows. So dairy cows are forcibly impregnated about once a year by farmers/breeders using special devices in order to ensure continuous milk production. The cows live around 4 to 6 years before being sent to slaughter and have around 2 to 4 calves. If raised as pets, cows live 18 to 22 years. 2. Different kinds of chickens are preferred for meat versus egg production. So when raising chickens for eggs, it's not cost effective to raise the male chicks. They're all killed as young as possible to minimize waste. Maceration is common, smashing them instantly because it's fastest and thus most humane. I eat eggs and sometimes dairy, despite lactose intolerance. Not judging anyone, but I do wish we had more stringent regulations around treatment of the animals we depend on. Edit. These things are generally true of the large-scale industrial farms that are optimizing for cost and supply the bulk of our dairy/eggs. Smaller operations can do considerably better, but it often takes some research and a little extra effort to find them.